So this is called the citizenship interview. An order is an order. Yes, I get it. I do not understand. He tells me to raise the voice, mine, to answer loudly, clearly. Yes, I get it. I do no longer understand. An order is yes. An order, so I will leave my passports there for your pair of examining eyes there on the edge of this pressed wood while you do whatever you are now doing. And while you are at it, I'll cross my legs in front of your officer face to show you the sheen of my ceremonial black shoes. Yeah, so this is one of the poems. So the in bitter English, I'll read another from. So it's kind of divided into 4 sections. I read one of each section, and then move on to other things. So this is called The Hunt a Home. And it's a longer poem. It's 3 sections, but I'll read it nevertheless. Number 1. In front of the house, a broken tile, part of the past order. It reminds me of the Egyptian man who owned the place, a hoarder of dark wood, of the black stuff that lodges itself on skin beneath the eye. And what is it about the rusty brown of a broken tile that sums it all? I don't know. I don't remember much of what he had, but all his years in exile were there in that house. And on top of the old tile that I can see now, staring at me, he installed a newer kind, a bright color for time. My brother and I walk his steps, noticing how everything was kept, how everything a cover. How can this man move out of this place? How and where is he going to store all his years? Number 2, the street is being blocked. A car is backing up in the middle of the road. How could they, I look, transport a whole house? In this space, the roots are malleable, and the uprootedness, not really the thing at hand, it is the thing at work. I imagine a tree in place of the house, its roots dangling on pavement, brushing against the cold April winds as the oversized load signs with the flashing cars from the front and back pass the entire block by, and I see windows passing me by, and I look down to where the wheels roll away the whole house. Lo and behold, there are no roots dangling from this wood, only the air making the rounds of a gone by time. And the final section of this poem, number 3, and here again, this is how the story goes. In this country, in these parts of land, it's all about this wood that wants to gather all it's all about this wood that wants to gather all the elements of its end. And long ago, my brother meets the light in his name, in a word, and the light travels fast. Dia keeps running with that name trying to reflect the flame within himself, his true nature, if you will. But exile catches up with all his steps. He tries to settle and contain himself within a structure of mirrors, but everything freezes with the cold, and the waters in pipes begin expanding beyond their means, and the solid quality of the matter makes copper burst, and then a trickle begins filling walls with whatever liquid escapes this deadening cold. Everything fills, and slowly the abandoned house makes itself at home. All right, but so maybe, so there's a third section. It's called Mother in Between. I'll read one of the poems from Recycling. I'm into these very long poems, and this poem is called Waste. It's about my mother. In your world, nothing went to waste. Nothing in your world. And joking once, I said to my American friend, my mother, in her world, nothing went to waste. You, the world's best recycler, laughing, how so? But nothing went to waste. Your hands setting things aside for wild cats, saving bread for birds, and the chickens in the backyard ate everything you said, and the skin, gentle hands getting coarse, picking out zucchini hearts, setting them aside on stove, the heat underneath cooking, water coming out of faucet, saved by the pot for plants. In your world, one kind, only one pair of shoes you clung to. Here, I'll read another one from this poem. It's actually one of the previous sections called Compost. And it's also remembering my mother. Every scrap of food had to go in whole. Every bit of food, the ground, the earth, dirt, and stone. You asked me to dig a hole in the ground for your composting. Down a few steps, I am slashing through air, raising the pick and landing it, earth collapsing, dirt and stone pushed in for the turn and the cut widening, and I hearing the water bubbling underneath vision, this pot, this boil, and no matter what, no vinegar can stop these beads from bleeding. Yeah, so a lot of poems about my mother here. You know, so there's this final section. It's called A Dirty Underworld, and in this, there's another poem about my mother. I'll end reading from Bitter English with this one. It's called At the Post Office. It's rather a long narrative poem, but I want to try to read it. I never read this poem, so I'll give it a chance. At the post office. What was I mailing that day? Nothing of importance, just bills. I had a few of them, not all of them were without stamps. I stood in line eyeing the surroundings. Some services were relabeled. They are no longer what they were called. And what inspired the change, I don't know, but I cared to know. maybe an attempt at clarification, a desire to eliminate confusion. The more the relabeling will eliminate, the more smoothly things go at that window up there. Wishful thinking, one might say, and I'd say it's child's play. Let them do whatever keeps them busy, as I'm still standing in line, marveling with red eyes at the priority packages. Some of them go by weight, some go by shape. You fit it, we ship it, one label says. I imagine hands trying to fit some malleable thing into a box, the edges of that thing always sticking out, and the hands hurry to control that corner while another one goes up, and so on and so forth, till I try hard controlling my imagination as I'm still standing, getting a bit nervous for no particular reason. And of course, you can't tell the mind what to do, and the thing turns into an octopus in my bag. And I see myself going a bit mad, trying to get its many legs in there, in that box. Oh my God, when is this going to end? The person in front of me wants to mail a package to China. He asks, where? On the package, where should he write in his language? A heated discussion begins to warm up in my ear, but none of it actually takes place. The lady points to one corner and simply says, here. And to top it off, she tells the man not to get back in line. When you're done, just come up right up. And I get cold from behind. It's your turn. That is, stop staring at things like a good little boy, and let's move this experience a foot and some inches ahead. I go up myself. I look at the lady behind the transparent plastic separating us. She looks a bit of a blur to me. Her voice seeps from the cracks, from the holes in fake glass, asking me, what can I do for you? And I wasn't myself then. I looked at her blankly and said, almost shouting, stamps! She looked at me without much surprise, as though it was expected of me to shout. It's all thought, all of it in my head, these scenarios. The lady kindly pointed to booklets of stamps. Some food for thought, I said, pointing to a set with Spanish words, labeling various Mexican meals. And she found what I said funny. She really smiled. There was a set of purple hearts, another with the American flag, and there, that one I've been trying to avoid, a picture of an old woman, a hand being reached to her from behind, touching the shoulder. I really couldn't believe it. The label, Alzheimer's, written over in big white letters. I hesitated. I took only the Mexican food one. That's it, the nice lady said, as though nothing was. And I said, I'll take one of those two, the Alzheimer's set. And I stuck them in my bag, then picked up my daughter from school, and I almost forgot. But then I remembered, and I said to her, all in Arabic, of course, let me show you some stamps. And when seeing the stamp, she couldn't believe it herself. That's Grandma, she said, ripping the booklet in half. She wanted to keep her half, to my surprise. And when it was time to say goodbye and goodnight, as I was going to New York, she said, wait. She got out of bed, her usual trick of not going to sleep, I thought. She said, I want to give you something. She went to her closet of toys, got the booklet out of a drawer of dolls, and was having trouble pulling one of the stamps out. I reached to help, but it was unnecessary. She did it herself, ripped part of the woman's hair off too, though not too much, just a little off the top of it, and was sticking it on a piece of paper. I was about to thank her, but the operation wasn't done, I guess. She said, wait, again, and went to some picture on the wall and started ripping something else. And I was about to get irritated, raised my voice a bit, but she didn't care. She said, just wait, and went right to it. A little heart was being ripped off the wall. She stuck it on the back of the same paper with the stamp and handed me something I wasn't sure how to take. So we'll leave it at that for bitter English, and move on to to more bitter subjects. No, let's lighten the mood a bit. I've been trying to put together another collection, and it's kind of a collection that might be called Tables and Chairs, because there's a lot of reflection in this new collection on the relationship between tables and chairs. And I think I read that particular poem in one of the last readings at Fergie's, or my last reading at Fergie's. So I'll read some of these chair poems, or table chair poems, and maybe others. I don't know. Do I have another like 10 minutes or less, or?
I have not been tracking time.
Okay, well.
Let's say yes.
Okay.
Yes, go for it.
All right, so this is called The Disappearance of Chairs. And that's how it goes. Chalky steps, chair hugging chair, not long ago, all was well, and then one on top of the other, they've been stacked. Tables all smothered by stiff legs and some hard flat bellies, and not much more happened after that. Everyone remained where they've been placed. A strange arrangement has just taken place. Without the sitters, they felt themselves kings for once, on top of the world, so to speak. And that was that for a while, till they began feeling an itch for what used to be, for old times, when they were murdered every day and people sat there to witness. So, yeah, that poem was that poem. So I'll read another one. It's called Christos. Jesus, a prophet or a god, because in the shop he made, as every carpenter of the time, tables and chairs. Out of wood came the word, as the original impulse was to hide behind an act. One can't be a prophet or a god without a cover, something to do till the word gets around, so to speak. And as metal was not a thing for laymen to play around with, it had to be wood. the only dry thing that could catch fire and lead, like the word, peoples, animals, and angels off course towards the light. That's it. And then sometimes, you know, there's these like reflections on tables and chairs came came couched in the form of poems about other things. So I'm going to read this poem called Letters to Emily D. And there was a period of time when I discovered Emily Dickinson. And I was reading, I was just taking her collected works and just kind of opening things, opening the book randomly. And trying to find like one line, one of her striking lines, and then try to kind of write to it. And I did that for a while. And after I did that for a while, I wrote this poem. The sign shakes. They've murdered the table today. And as they are, those talking heads, experts in the act, they now set up more tables and chairs. Here is an empty envelope that I fetched to imitate your loneliness. Nothing of the real satisfies. A sight of the flesh sends the mind wandering. Scribble away, you say. I say, between lines, other words and names are born. As numbers appear to remind us, as always, of loneliness. A letter should be inside an envelope. A letter hides like the self that swirls to appease the body. Oh my feet, oh my, what can be held by flatness can be tossed away. 1, 2, like leaves we do, hide triangles. All right, I'll continue with this poem. It's not over. It's like it's kind of sectioned in a weird way. It's like sectioned in a way where it's not numbered. So I'll try to continue with it. The limbs grow out of a pocket. The lines grow. Unlike you, my words are not sparse. I am the flood that sustains by destruction. We are the waters dragged out of the depths by moons. If you open up the tongue, there's the mouth that is the gap, ready to eat up all inclinations. Is it for sustenance that we gobble up the word? Lips stick as the tongue wets, pricks an opening, silence. Wet it seeps into the mouth, ordering the tongue to tame the one that folds onto itself all other numbers. And then the final section, which is basically 3 short lines. Yes, out of the one grows the wing. All right, so let me read another poem that doesn't have to do with chairs, but maybe things. and it's called Some Things Last. These windows, these panes at the beginning of light, looking where they look, eyeing the east and the rust, and here they are, protected by shade and shadows. Branches and birds run into them, fly into them and out. You can see nothing through. You can see, or you can only see what bounces off. Back at the world, and then you return to the lemon that is the self squeezing drop after drop. There's nothing left of you now, no juice. Can you go on lubricating the mind with filth, musing on you as disaster, and the rest of you as the elements? Can you? Here they go, one by one, into a flame set down beneath all the steps. At the very bottom of it all you say, and God, I wish you didn't. I look away from the blank space remaining. Oh, these birds in the mornings are funny, and the little tricks they repeat and repeat, like these sounds they make in order. They fly off together and one by one, puffing up small bodies, extending a peak that opens up a view, that finds space in whatever looks shut and closed. A wall has some hole, a tree trunk can manage a crack, and under the ledge, a window knows something of the hidden world. Okay, maybe I'll try to read just two more poems, and then we'll call it a night. If only I could find these two more poems. All right, here's one that is just called a poem. If beginnings are as hard as they seem, then let this loose attempt at filling emptiness be on its own an end, a page on its own, like a poem on its own, a solitary step toward the great void. Line by line it says, there's no need. This once in a life gesture toward freezing the moment in the moment can only be the sum of all wasted time, the ebb and flow of the truism of cliches, and the desire, the human one, to reduce life from repetition, to rescue life from repetition. Like a sad string, it cannot be sad on its own. We have to label it so and live with the fallacies of naming. And here I'll end on another Tables and Chairs poem. It's called Closer to the Real Thing. Things in moderation, our only consolation. A table is good and loving when the head sinks by the force of gravity down for a doze. Things in moderation, the closest we can get to a soft spirituality, not the one you breathe in and out, but the one you hold in your hand and feel with the skin of your fingers, the one you can ponder with touch, our only consolation.